Imagine waking up tomorrow to a news alert so seismic, so utterly transformative, that the very savings you have tucked away in a small, weathered envelope or a secure bank account have suddenly multiplied in value not by percentages but by multiples. Picture a scenario where the humble banknotes you've been holding, perhaps for years, are now being discussed on every major financial network from Bloomberg to CNBC, not as a speculative asset, but as a powerhouse currency on the global stage. This isn't a fantasy or a scene from a movie. This is the palpable, electric, and very real anticipation coursing through the veins of millions of Iraqi citizens and international investors right now, all centered on a single monumental event, the potential revaluation of the Iraqi dinar. For decades, the story of the dinar has been one of struggle, of potential stifled by conflict and instability, its value a shadow of its former, oil-rich glory. But the whispers have become conversations, and those conversations have become a roar, a chorus of analysts, insiders, and even cautious government officials hinting that the stars are finally aligning for what many are calling the next Kuwait moment. You see, Kuwait faced its own currency crisis after the first Gulf War, and its subsequent revaluation didn't just restore value. It created generational wealth for those who had the foresight to believe in the nation's recovery. The same tectonic plates are now shifting beneath Iraq. The Central Bank of Iraq, the CBI, is no longer a passive observer in its own destiny. It is an active architect, implementing policies with a speed and determination that has caught the attention of the entire financial world. They are not just tinkering with interest rates or tweaking reserve requirements, they are undertaking a fundamental root and branch restructuring of the entire monetary system, a process so complex and ambitious that its success hinges on a delicate dance of political will, economic reform, and global trust. The recent announcements from Baghdad are not the usual, vague promises we've grown accustomed to over the years. They are specific, technical, and targeted, aimed squarely at the two pillars that support any strong currency: monetary sovereignty and international credibility. The project to delete the zeros from the currency, a move that sounds simple, but is in fact a Herculean feat of financial logistics, is not just about creating new, smaller denomination notes. It is a symbolic and practical severing of the currency from its inflationary past. It is a statement to the world that Iraq is ready to transact, to trade, and to be valued on a new, streamlined playing field. Combine this with the relentless push to de-dollarize the Iraqi economy, to wean it off its dependency on the US dollar for large-scale internal transactions, and you have a recipe for a currency that is being forced to stand on its own 2 feet, backed by the second largest proven oil reserves on the planet, and a nation desperate for a return to its historic place as a cradle of civilization and commerce. This is the foundation upon which the shockwaves are building. This is the calm before the storm. So what does this grand vision look like on the ground in the bustling markets of Baghdad and the oil fields of Basra? The mechanism for this potential revaluation is a complex interplay of 3 powerful forces, each one a critical gear in the machine of national economic transformation. The first and most discussed is the deletion of the 3 zeros. Now, it's crucial to understand this is not a simple redenomination where old notes are swapped for new ones at a 1-in-1 ratio. The true intent, the one that fuels the speculation, is a managed float or a re-pegging of the new post-zero currency at a significantly higher value against the US dollar. Think of it this way: if you have a company whose share price has fallen to a fraction of a cent, making it cumbersome to trade, you might perform a reverse stock split. You consolidate shares to create a higher, more respectable price per share. The company's total market capitalization remains the same, but the perception and functionality change dramatically. The CBI is attempting the monetary equivalent of this on a national scale. They are aiming to replace the current high denomination notes, which are a constant reminder of hyperinflation and economic trauma, with a new, robust family of banknotes that can facilitate both everyday purchases and multi-million-dollar international contracts without requiring wheelbarrows of cash. The second force is the tangible, verifiable strengthening of the dinar's value through the central bank's auction mechanisms. For months now, we have been witnessing a deliberate and steady climb in the official exchange rate, a slow but consistent appreciation that is being carefully managed to avoid market panic. This isn't happening by accident. It is the result of strategic interventions, increased foreign currency reserves, and a concerted effort to control the illicit outflow of dollars to neighboring countries through sanctions and stricter financial controls. Every few feels that the dinar gains against the dollar is a step towards the critical mass needed for a full-scale revaluation event. It builds domestic confidence, discourages hoarding of foreign currency, and sends a clear signal to the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank that Iraq is serious about fiscal discipline. The third and most potent force is the one that lies beneath the sand: oil and economic diversification. The recent oil and gas law developments, while politically fraught, are ultimately about creating a stable, predictable framework for the nation's primary source of wealth. A higher value dinar would immediately increase Iraq's purchasing power for imports, reduce the cost of servicing foreign debt, and make non-oil sectors like agriculture and manufacturing more competitive. It would be the ultimate tool for fighting inflation internally, as the cost of imported goods, from medicine to machinery, would plummet. This creates a virtuous cycle. A stronger currency tames inflation, which increases public confidence in spending, which fuels economic growth, which in turn further strengthens the currency. This is the self-reinforcing loop that the Central Bank of Iraq is trying to initiate, a loop that could indeed send shockwaves not just across Iraq, but across the entire global economic landscape, redefining the balance of power in the Middle East. Therefore, question is no longer if, but when and how high. The 2025 timeline being discussed in various circles is not an arbitrary date plucked from the air. It is the culmination of a multi-year roadmap laid out by the government and the central bank, a roadmap that includes the introduction of the new currency, the completion of critical banking reforms, and the stabilization of the federal budget. The Kuwait Moment analogy is powerful because it provides a historical precedent for a phoenix-like rise from the ashes of war, but it is also imperfect because the Iraq of today is a far more complex and populous nation than the Kuwait of the 1990s. The potential for wealth creation is, therefore, exponentially greater. For the Iraqi family, a revaluation means the ability to afford a home, to send children to university, to access world-class healthcare, to reclaim a standard of living that has been eroded by decades of hardship. For the international investor who took a position on the dinar during its darkest hours, it represents a historic windfall, a testament to the high-risk, reward nature of frontier market investing. But beyond the individual stories of prosperity, a successful revaluation would be the single most powerful declaration of Iraqi sovereignty and recovery in the 21st century. It would be a message to Iran, to the United States, to Europe, and to the Gulf states that Iraq is open for business on its own terms, with a currency that reflects its immense natural wealth and the unbreakable spirit of its people. The shockwaves would be felt in forex markets as traders scramble to adjust their portfolios, in boardrooms as corporations recalculate the value of their Iraqi contracts, and in the halls of power as geopolitical analysts redraw their maps of influence. The Central Bank of Iraq holds the key, and every announcement, every incremental change in the exchange rate is a turn of that key in the lock. The door is not yet open, but the mechanism is undeniably in motion. The world is watching, waiting for the moment the lock clicks open. And for those of you who have stayed with me through this deep dive, who understand the gravity of this potential economic renaissance, your role is just beginning. This isn't just a story to watch from the sidelines, it's a developing history that demands your engagement. So I want you to do 3 things right now. First, smash that like button if this analysis opened your eyes to the real, substantive moves happening behind the headlines. Second, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell, because in this fast-moving environment, you do not want to be the last to know when a major CBI announcement breaks. We will be here to break it down for you, clearly and without the hype. And third, and most importantly, I want you to sound off in the comments below. What do you think is the single biggest hurdle left for Iraq to overcome before the RV can happen? Is it political unity, international banking compliance, or something else entirely? Let's get a real intelligent discussion going. This is your go-to source, and your voice is a critical part of this community. Share your thoughts down below, and let's navigate these historic shifts together.